Okay, so I've decided that I'm going to do like a video, like a YouTube video series, basically documenting my next project, which is I'm calling it a sideboard. It's basically a cabinet that goes into my dining room, and I use dining room loosely. It's just a room. I don't really dine in it. Anyway, so I'm making it in a kind of a mid-century modern design. You can see the design here. It's basically a loose design. It's going to look like this, but it's also not going to look like this. It's not going to be painted black. It's not going to have like a mesh inlay on the doors. I'm going to use walnut for the main wood of the piece, and then the lighter color on the doors is going to be maple. But so I just want to like kind of document everything along the way from start to finish. So now what I got to do is just grab everything off the truck and bring it into the shop and put it away. And there's a couple more things I got to do to clean up, and then we'll be ready to go. Right now, it's still very rough. Still very rough. So we'll show it to you when when the planer actually bites into it. Okay, so I have done about 3 iterations of running the boards through the planer, and it's now starting to bite. The grain's starting to be revealed, which is great. There was a knot or something in one of the boards, and it sounded like a gun went off inside the planer. Everything's fine, but that scared the crap out of me. So this is where we're at with the wood. Obviously you can still see, some of the rough parts of it, and that's fine. That's gonna be there until I get it all evened out through the planer. But you can start to see some of the grain kind of come through. This rough stuff, this is gonna go away as we crank down on the planer. So starting to come together, looking pretty good. But look at that. Is that beautiful or what? Come on, man. To quote Joe Biden, come on, man. Is that beautiful? It really is. I messed up. I did not video myself cutting the boards. So I'm just gonna show you the boards. So let's see them. Okay, here are the boards. Sorry about that. I know my entire YouTube audience is very concerned. So I have 2 sections here, 2 types of sections, a bunch of them. So each pile represents a piece of wood that's going to be included in the piece of furniture, right? So each pile is going to essentially get glued together. And so I have a shorter group on top, and then the longer side is going to be on the bottom. And I came up short by just a little bit. I need 4 sections of each, and I only have 3 of the shorter, sections. So I have to go back to the lumberyard this week or something and get like 2 more boards just to be safe, so I can move forward with this thing. What we're doing now is gluing up the pieces that are going to essentially form the frame, the box frame of the sideboard. I have 8 pieces that have to get all put together. One of them, I just did one. The second and through the 8th are all back here. And they're going to all get glued up and they have to go one at a time because I'll show you, I'm being super deliberate with how I put these together. I want to make sure that they're just really true, really straight. So as you can see, I am using these 2x4s that I have situated underneath The walnut, I have gone to great pains to make sure that they are precisely flat and exactly the same height. So this remains true. So when these things get put together, they're like perfectly together, and it'll minimize how much sanding I have to do, and it'll minimize, you know, the work I have to do to get it cut to size and all that stuff. So that's where we're at. And then of course, this is the remainder. Each stack represents, you know, another piece that has to be put together. So if we just go ahead and fast forward another 7 days, I'll be done. So now that I took 8 days and did these panels all one by one a day for 8 days straight. Now that they're all glued together, they need to be sanded down just 80 grit just to get them flush. And then they have to be cut. The long pieces have to be cut to the exact same length and width. The short pieces have to be cut to the exact same length and width. And then we'll be ready to assemble the structural boxes for the actual piece of furniture. So that's where we're at. All right, so now what we're gonna do is show like the seams, you know, the glue seams. Gotta sand that flush. So we have the 3 boards that make up the panel. But there's these glue joints in between. I have to sand them flush with 80 grit. And then once that's done on all 8 of these panels, at that point I can then cut them to exact same length and width. And then at that point we'll be ready to put them together into kind of the box structure for the overall sideboard. All right, I love the smell of fresh cut walnut. I love it. It just has a unique smell to it, kind of like pine does. Anyway, that's one side of one board. So now the task is to run each panel through the joiner, and that'll give it a really true solid edge on one side, and then I need to put that edge against the fence on the table saw and run it through the table saw so we have precisely the same exact width on all the panels. The length is going to vary between, there's a longer version of a panel and then a shorter version of the panel, but the width is always going to be exactly the same. So that's the task. Joiner, run it through the table saw, get them exactly the same width, and then from there we can cut them to length. Not take long at all. All right, joining done. All right, here we go. Okay, buddy, let's do this. We are done with the width. Okay. Right? got them all. They're all at 19 inches wide. Now to blow it out. Now to blow it out. Whew. And now we just let that settle. Man, that's brutal. All right, I'm just gonna briefly describe what's happening now. So I get to use one of my favorite new tools. I love this, the track saw. By Festool. This might end up being a Festool commercial. So one of the 8 panels is here, set up on the table saw. And the whole idea is I have to cut a perfectly square edge to the overall edge. So this is my clean edge from yesterday that I cut on the joiner. That edge is what is perfectly parallel to this one off of the table saw. So if I cut a perfectly square line down here with the track saw, theoretically, if it's square on this corner, it'll be square on that corner, which I believe is the way I have it set up here. And I have this track clamped to the piece of wood underneath, so, and then weighted down a bit. So all I have to do is run this track saw, cutting this edge, and then theoretically, I can then use this square edge on the fence of the table saw to cut the other edge, which will be perfectly parallel. And then I just have to do that on all of the panels. Square edge. All right, check this out. When I say exactly the same, all these panels, these are the short panels, they are exactly the same. Here's the long panels. They are exactly the same. Length, width, and thickness. We are ready to, I gotta sand it down to 220, sand each panel, both sides, down to 220. That's gonna take some time. And then I'm gonna cut the edges, cut the ends with the router bit for the 45-degree lock joint. And I'm gonna have to do some test cuts on that as well. But once that's done, then these things, they're ready to get glued up into boxes, which is gonna be a thing. And once we got the boxes glued up, we got the base structure, and I can start working on cabinet doors, the back, the legs, the top. You know, the cabinet doors are probably the next thing after the boxes are made and put together. Yeah, so it's gonna be coming together here pretty soon. Okay, let's talk about some stuff. So, all 8 panels, the long panels and the shorter panels, all sanded 80 grit, 150 grit, and 220 grit. So we're at a point now where I have to embark on probably the scariest part of the build, which is using the one piece of equipment in my shop that has the potential to turn a normal piece of wood into a fragmentation grenade. The router table scares me because it really can take a piece of wood and blast it apart and turn it into literally shrapnel that goes everywhere. And you know, when your face is close to an exploding grenade, usually things don't go well. So, you know, if the router bit comes up out of the table like this, I have to put a board and cut it this way, and then I have to put a board and cut it this way. And that's where things get sketchy. When I have a big piece of wood vertical on this router bit that has the potential to blow it apart. So because the router table is, you know, something to be taken seriously, I need to go to Lowe's. I need to get a piece of pine in order to do some test cuts using the router bit for the 45-degree lock miter joint. I don't want to cut the walnut right out of the gate. I definitely want to do some test cuts to make sure that it's exactly right, because setting up this bit in the router table can be a bit of a challenge, and there's some finessing that has to happen. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to head off to Lowe's. We're going to get a piece of pine, come back, plane it down to the exact same thickness as the walnut, because that matters. And then my test cuts will translate over to the actual walnut material panels. So that's where we're at. We're going to go to Lowe's and get that done. Here we are in Lowe's. I got to get a piece of pine in order to do test cuts, because the next thing I do is super critical. All right, so I'm at Lowe's. I'm leaving Lowe's, actually. I just had to pick up a piece of pine, and I go to the. It's just one piece of pine. I walk up to the register line thingy. I get to the guy, and I do what I always do. I say, "How's it going? You know, what's up? You know, how you doing?" Like the simple greetings that do not require any kind of response. This is universally understood. Or maybe it's not universally understood anymore. Maybe this new generation thinks that this is a green light to start talking about your gastrointestinal situation, and he like literally launched into a diatribe on how his indigestion has affected his day, and you know he's just not feeling great, and he's struggling to hold it back. I'm like, dude, I want to buy pine. What? This is the router bit, right? You can see how it's kind of shaped, and a piece of wood gets cut this way, and a piece of wood gets cut that way. And once they're cut, they lock together at a 45-degree angle, making a perfect 90-degree corner that locks together. So this is the potential grenade. We have our pine pieces prepped. We have the 8 walnut panels ready to go. Here's the router table with the bit ready to go. Bit will go in there. All right, so I've done the first test cut on this piece of pine. This is what the lock joint will look like. Obviously, it's not it's not perfect yet, so I'm still working on refining it. We have some overhang on this side, and obviously it's the opposite on the other side. It's kind of undercut, so I have to adjust the router table bit and fence in order to refine that to make it perfect. Look at that. We're looking much better. Come on. There you go. Focus. I mean, it's not super perfect, but it's perfect enough. I mean, this is basically spot on. I processed the sample wood through the bit on the router table, and it works, but the problem is that the router table has a fence that's this tall. It's like 3.5 inches tall, right? So that's not gonna be good enough to hold. I have to stand this on end, right? I have to stand this on end and put it against that fence. That's 3.5 inches tall. And there can't be any wobbling back and forth. Like this cannot happen when I'm running it through the router table. So I don't have any confidence in that. So what I'm gonna have to do is, it's like a side project to the actual project. I need to build a fence that goes up, you know, a good bit, like maybe 8 inches tall. I don't know. So I can stabilize that piece as I'm running it through the the table router, table, whatever. You know what I mean. I have to literally build something else in order to continue building my project. So I found these 2 pieces of walnut that I can stand up and use as a fence. I just have to drill out some holes, make sure the edges are right, and do some other things. But I think this is gonna work. And then I think I'm gonna have to build like a sled to run the pieces through. This is getting way too complicated. But at this point, I'm in the rabbit hole. I might as well keep going. So here I go. All right, here we go. This is the next test cut, which is really nice. Let's not kid ourselves. That's actually really solid. And here is the the fence that I cut it on. So it gives a little bit more stability in the vertical, because those things have to be stood on end in order to run through this. So I think this is gonna work. I need to do a couple more test cuts to make sure that the everything's coming together just right. And more than anything, I need to build my confidence in this cut, because if I flinch, it could be bad. Alrighty, the hard part's done, I think. I still have to cut these, but these are gonna lay flat on the router table. These I had to stand up on their ends, and they are cut. And I think they're clean. There's a little bit of kind of some blowout issues here, some breaking off of the ends. I did my best to mitigate that, but I think we're in business. All right, it's done. Both edges have their different cuts. So this one has the notch going up and down, and then this one has the notch going side to side. At this point, I have to now tape all the inside edges so that where the two pieces come together, the tape will help to mitigate the glue squeeze out. It'll prevent it from going on the wood where it shouldn't go, and it'll make cleaning up the dried glue way easier. So that's what I'm doing tonight. I'm gonna be taping up all these pieces so I can get moving with the glue ups. There you go. All right, all 8 pieces have both ends taped, in order to allow this joint to fuse with the other joint. And then this is gonna be the inside corner, inside of the box, and all the glue that comes out is not gonna be able to stick to this wood. It's just gonna get caught up on the tape, and all I have to do is peel the tape off, and off comes the glue. I think I'm gonna have to do at least one test glue up, like a dry run glue up, just so I know like all my clamps are right and everything is kind of set and square and flush and all that stuff. So I'll do that, and then we'll do a glue up and see how it goes. All right, let me go wide. Oh, not wide, there we go. Okay, this is not glued up yet. This is just the dry run of it. It's not perfect, so I think I have to do some tweaking. Not to the pieces of wood. The wood's good. The way it's situated, like the floor is not flat, so it's not sitting totally flush on the ground. So I think I need to do something underneath the ends. to prop up the ends I know they're straight. So I think that's what I'm gonna have to do. But we're getting close to gluing it up. All right, here's this is the final dry run of the glue up, right? Whew, okay. And I think it's good and square. One of the corners, this corner here is slightly off square, but all other three are fine. So there's just one, like a slight difference in the length of one of the boards. It's fine. It's so negligible it won't be noticed. So this is how it's gonna get glued up and clamped. Now to just do it. I had to elevate each corner, just the corners, in order to kind of square everything off. So, whew, now to glue it. And just because, look at that joint. Is that beautiful? Look at that joint. Oh, I love it. That's just the way things are supposed to look. This was way more physically demanding than I had originally thought. But it's done. It's glued up. It will sit there for 24 hours. I'll unclamp it tomorrow and move it into, I guess, the dining room or something. But man, I'm like sweating like a pig. This was crazy. Hopefully I'll get the next one a little bit more efficient and better. But man, this is probably one of the more difficult glue ups. And I'm still not even totally sure that it's good. I mean, it's good in terms of it'll hold together, but I think the corners are not square. They're not terribly bad. I mean, each corner is like slightly off square, which bugs me because I'm anal retentive. But I think some of it might have to do with the fact that some of the wood is bowed because of the pressure it's under with the clamps. I don't know. It could be it, accounting for just a slight being out of square. But it is what it is, so it's done. Now, so this one has to dry, and then I have to glue up the second one of these, and then glue those two together. That's one of two boxes that are going to form the overall base of this thing. And it is much bigger in person now that it's made than I had originally thought. Like, you know, when you draw measurements, it seems right, but then when you get it and it's real, now it seems bigger. At any rate, there it is. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be a big piece of furniture, dang. Anyway, I gotta do the glue cleanup and then glue up the second one, glue clean up that, and then glue these two together, side by side. It's gonna be awesome. I finally got the second box glued up. I still have to do the glue cleanup. It still has quite a bit of glue squeeze out on the edges there, and obviously there's tape and glue squeeze out on in the joints. But other than that, after the glue cleanup's done, I can pretty much glue these two things together. They're gonna be fused right here in the center, so it'll be like one continuous thing. This is my least favorite part of woodworking. I have to go in with this little tool, which is essentially a little blade, and I have to go and like chisel out the squeeze out glue in this tiny corner. And it's just tedious work, and it just requires, it's just tedious. But luckily I have this blue painter's tape here to kind of help with it coming off, because man, I've done it without the tape before, and it is no fun. It's not fun as is, but I literally, this is all I'm gonna have to do for the next like couple hours / days if I just like get irritated with it. And I just gotta come in here and just pick it out, pick out the tape, and then pick out the glue, squeeze out. I'm gonna sneeze. Woo, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, I did it. I got all the corners, edges, everything. Glue cleanup has been completed. Here, let me show it to you. So as you can see, no glue. Look at that. Look at these. I'm telling you, look at those joints. Are those crazy or what? They're super strong. But all the glue squeeze out and all the corners is gone. All the glue squeeze out on the edges. You know, look at that beautiful corner. Now the doors go on, and then the back, then the top, and then the feet. So a lot to go, a lot more to do. I just finished up at the lumberyard again, second run. Actually, technically it's the third run because I had to get like one piece or something to finish up the first like phase of the sideboard project. So you can see the wood there in the back kind of hanging out. I got zebra wood and a little bit extra walnut. So my goal with this lot of wood, I gotta get on 95, is to make the cabinet doors for the sideboard. But I want to do I want to take the walnut and use that as a kind of a border for the doors, and then on the center portion of the doors use the zebra wood in like a kind of a fan pattern, using the crazy grain from zebra wood to make a fan pattern in the middle, and it should be really eye-catching. Okay, I got it all home. Here's the walnut that I got underneath, but this, my friends, is zebra wood. And it can be a little bit like there's some rough spots here, but overall, this grain is awesome. Just like with the other lot of boards that I got, so I have to run everything through the planer. So I have all the, what do you call them? Zebra wood, and I gotta run it through the planer. But because it's so chippy, I have to be really kind of deliberate and slow about it, taking just little tiny bits off at a time to make sure I minimize the chance of it chipping while it's going through the planer. So that's where I'm at. Hopefully it'll clean it up nice and it'll look better. So we're gonna take it slow, take it easy. All right. Okay, introducing for the first time in the wood shop, zebra wood. Look at that grain. Is that beautiful or what? Holy crap. This is my setup for fusing, gluing, whatever, the two boxes together. They're not gonna sit upright like this. They're gonna sit on the ground flat or horizontal, but this is how I'm gluing it. Here's the deal. We have this glued up. It's dried now. It's been sitting here for 3 days. So I'm confident that the glue is now cured. So I'm gonna unclamp this. I've already planed down the additional walnut and zebra wood that I got. So that's planed down to 3/4 inch. Once I have this unclamped, I gotta clean up the glue, squeeze out, and then it's time to start building the doors, which, because of this zebra wood, I think that it's just gonna be amazing. So I'm pretty excited about that. Let's get this unclamped. All right, so the next piece of the puzzle here is to take this walnut and cut out the border pieces for each of the 4 doors that's gonna go on the sideboard. I've decided to go with 2 3/4 inch wide pieces to form the border. So based on that, and doing the math on this amount of wood here, down here, I will have like basically nothing left. I mean, this is a very close call. I even had to go into the scrap bin, right? I had to pull this little guy out. This is something from the scrap bin that I'm gonna have to use to cover it. So, and actually this piece, this shorter piece here, there, that's just left over. So the walnut I bought the other day at the lumber yard is probably not gonna be enough to cover all 16 pieces. I had to tap into some of my leftovers to cover it. So we'll see if I can actually pull it off. But it's better to have nothing left over than, I'd rather not have scrap. So that's just my philosophy on the situation. All right, so now I have the pieces of walnut cut out. We have the long pieces here and the short pieces there. I actually did a miscalculation and I cut these short ones a little bit too long, so it's better than the alternative, but I'm gonna have a little bit more scrap wood than I probably should have, but whatever, it's fine. So that's the deal on that. So now I gotta turn these into the borders of the doors, the cabinet doors, and that's gonna require cutting them all to, I think I'm gonna go with 2 3/4 inch width, and then I have to do some routing on these things to get them to fit together, and then I got to start working on the zebra wood to get the inside of the center portion of the doors put together, and then I can put the whole thing together, and hopefully they'll fit on the sideboards. That'd be great. Okay, so now I have cut all the pieces. These are the short pieces. These are the long pieces. And they're all cut to exactly 2 inches and 2 3/4. So that's their thickness, or not thickness, but width. And then the lengths vary. And so basically none of these are cut to length yet. I need to go over to here and cut them to length. All right, I decided to, listen to Ice Ice Baby, by the way. I decided to do the routing on these pieces before I cut to length. There's a reason for it, I just don't feel like explaining it. All right, and that's the last one. So we got all 8 pieces here, cut with grooves right down the middle, which is beautiful, right? And now we gotta deal with the length in these pieces. All right, here is the test pieces that I've cut, right? So we have the groove here, and then the cross pieces are gonna have this section cut out and the groove. And so they both fit together nice and pretty, right? And then they look like that on the edges, like that. And then on the inside, the groove just goes across the top and down the side. So a middle section can slide into it and fit nice and tight and secure, and it'll be beautiful. Took a while to get here, but we're here. Alrighty, here we go. We have cut all the pieces. So we have the long pieces that have just the groove right down the middle. We have the short pieces that also have the groove down the middle, but then they also have this protruding piece on either end, okay? And so the idea here, all right, let's put this down here. So the idea is we take a long piece and a long piece, and then the short pieces go on either end, and they fit nice and snug inside the grooves, right? Like that. And so that forms our frame, and then as you can see, all the way around this thing, hold on, all the way around it is that groove. And then the center piece, And obviously there's gonna be a rail down there. But the centerpiece is gonna be made of zebra wood, and that is going to be a spectacular door. And I have 4 of them, so that's pretty exciting. Now I gotta get working on the zebra wood, which is sitting up there and ready for me to, you know, do stuff. All right, so here we go. I have all the zebra wood has been planed, and it is really spectacular. I mean, what an interesting, crazy grain. Anyway, it has been planed down relatively thin. It's not quite to a 1/2 inch thick. It's more like 5/8 and like a little bit of change thick. So that, now this has to get cut. Oh, I almost dropped my phone. Oh my goodness. These pieces now have to all get cut into 15.5 inch lengths. So 15.5 inches, like all the way down. I'm gonna cut 15.5 inch lengths out of this thing. This one I can get 2 sections at 2 inches, 2 3/4 inches. So that should be good. And then I'll just go down each piece that way and just keep getting 15. Now, because this piece is so long, I have to cut essentially 3 sections worth in the first one just to make the first cut. But then I'll start cutting them. And then this is my measuring stop. So that's where we're at with it. A lot of cutting to go. And then, I hope this is right. I hope I did the math right. Here we go. Here we are. Got our pieces here. And now, gotta split them, and I got a lot more to cut, so. All right, here we go. This is how I'm gonna glue up half of the center section for each door. So, one half will be at this angle, the other half will be at that angle, and I'm just gonna cut a seam straight down that middle, and obviously it'll all fit within the parameters of the interior of the door once it's all glued together. But the idea is the grain will be like basically in a V. It'll be roop, roop. And that's gonna be spectacular. I decided to glue this up in my kitchen because the granite is a very, very flat, like truly flat surface. So, and then I've drawn on here, you can see in pencil, the rectangle that's gonna get cut out of this once it's glued up. So you can see all the grain kind of has that angle. And then another one of these, the exact opposite way, you know, angle going that way, those 2 pieces will be fit together to form one center piece of one door. So I have a lot of work ahead of me. Check this out. So this is the first piece I've done. And so we have this diagonal grain, which is just beautiful. And then the second half of the interior of this door is gonna be this just flipped over. So the grain is gonna go in the opposite direction with that seam right down the middle. And it's basically gonna form a V of grain for the entire interior of all 4 doors. So this is turning out better than I expected. I love it. Let me come down here. Hey, all right. This is one of the 2 interior door panels that will be joined together with the other one to form the V of grain. So anyway, I had to get glued up in this kind of wonky way, which sucks because all this represents waste, essentially, all these like triangles here. So I'm gonna take the track saw, this is the track, obviously. Take the track saw and just zip this clean straight line. I'll join that and then rip the other side and then just kind of cut out the two ends to make it, you know, square. And then I can start joining the two halves together. I think it's gonna come out really nice. So let's get this thing cut. Nice clean cut. And then I'll cut the other edge and we'll be on our way. Okay, here we go. This is what the interior of the doors are gonna look like. And I love it. It's so much work that I'm not sure I'm gonna do this for all the doors. Maybe like 2 of the doors, and then the other 2 can just have the grain just straight up and down, or even like side to side. You know, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.